So I wonder where that bird is, but he is very vocal. He's letting us know of his presence around us, but I cannot see him. Hello friends, and welcome to another episode of the Urban Homesteading channel. If today is your first time visiting with us, we want to express to you a very warm welcome and invite you to view any of our almost 500 videos that are arranged for your convenience in playlists, as we are very confident you're going to find something both entertaining and useful. If you have been here before but you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Do subscribe. If today is your birthday, we want to wish you a very happy birthday. Well friends, with COVID-2 still forcing us into quarantine, we are going to build today another project that will help you beautify your home. Is that what you will call it?
Yeah, it's just decoration, kind of aesthetic.
This is easy. It requires minimum cutting or no cutting. If you have your wood cut at the store when you buy it the way we did. But even if you don't, it only requires 3 cuts. The project we're going to show you, and then we're going to go over the different ways we discuss a project. This will follow this short clip, so you will see how we think through the building process. So stick around and we're going to show you both our thought process behind it and of course the way we build it. Right? We'll be right back.
We want to talk about what this was.
Sure.
How we got it cut. So this was a 4-foot long, 12-inch wide, 1-inch board. It's a finish pine, and I had it cut into 15-inch lengths, and I got 3 of them out of the single board with another little cutoff that we'll probably use for another project.
And that was done at the store, right?
I had it done at the store because they can do the super straight cuts, and they're all exactly 15.
Okay, and the idea for that is that it will create, when you put them on the wall, it will create that nice architectural construct, right?
Yeah,
the concept.
The feature and the dimensionality.
Now there are many different ways we can finish this, right? One, and the simple ways, of course, to finish it and then use these clips and put like what is 4x8 pictures. What is the small size?
Well, it just depends on what you want. Whether you want multiples on each board,
right? You can do
want
either,
a single, so that you would have like a 5x7 or an 8x10. It just depends on how much of the wood border that you want to show.
Now, in this idea, if you wanted to rotate the board, you have to apply. You have to decide that before you actually do them, because the locations will be different.
Correct.
On the rest,
whether you want the horizontally
right.
done picture or a vertical picture.
On the rest of what we're thinking, you don't. It makes no difference, right? You can hang it either way.
Right.
So that would be one idea. That would be the simplest way to build this, right?
Right.
Another idea, and these are dollar store picture frames, right?
Yeah.
And this has a very nice finish to
I
it.
loved the copper. That's why I went ahead and picked it up, just as a contrast, a possible
Right.
contrast.
And you can finish that any way you want. Potentially, you can even finish it with a copper finish, right? Or that would be too much copper. I don't know.
Well, it depends. Like the craft paint is very inexpensive. I think it was like $1.50, $2 for that little container that we've been using, and it would potentially even cover all 3 boards, depending on how thick you wanted your paint.
Right.
Or a spray paint, depending on.
Plus, you don't need to paint behind it, so really you don't need a lot of paint.
You just need to center this, and you'd have to do the border
Right.
around it.
Okay, so that's another idea, right?
Or if you just want it to look dark, we've got a darker frame that has a little bit of a matte border in there. Again, you're not going to have a whole lot of the wood showing around, but it's going to contrast. The darkness is going to contrast with the dark stain if you do that. And then whatever picture you put in there is going to pop because everything's kind of dark, and if you put a brightly colored picture in there, it'll bring it out.
Or you can go for a total gallery look and paint the wood white.
You could.
With the black frames, that will look very nice.
That never occurs to me because I'm really not a white paint person. And if you wanted something so that you had a lot of wood showing because you really like that look, you can do the smaller frames. This is a 5x7 obviously, and so that would give you a lot of the wood border around it.
And
You could also put 2 on there, couldn't you?
yeah, and you can go this way.
Let me see.
You had like family photos or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could. You could totally put two on this size and then just make sure they're evenly spaced. That would look really cool.
And you can even have two on this orientation and one on
Like
portrait. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that will make a visual interesting thing, right? And right now we're showing you kind of behind the scenes how we go about projects, right? This is a staging discussion about what we want to do, right?
And then another idea to do some more dimension to the project is to have this black frame here, taking out the glass and everything else behind it just to provide some interest, and then also centering this smaller frame in the middle there. And that would give you a whole lot of visual dimension.
And this
Display.
works very well with these inexpensive frames. You could use, of course, pieces of wood to make this
Absolutely.
detail too, but probably a piece of wood that will give you this size frame will probably cost close to $1 anyway. So if you get $1 store frames, this will work regardless what you do.
Yeah, it depends on the material you want it to be too, right?
Yes.
So, and plus, the dollar store frame that you buy comes with glass,
Yes.
Which is
the
really
wood would
nice.
not. Yeah, lots of things to consider.
And of course, you don't have to stay with stain there. You can paint, and you don't have to paint this. But and speaking of this, we could use this to create a different, either in the frame or paint between the two frames. You know, and also you don't have to stain this big piece. You can paint it if you wanted to, or even leave it unfinished, which I'm always overridden on that
Not always.
most of the time.
Oh, remember the LP thing that we did? All I did was the beeswax finish on it. I left it because I did this finished wood and it looked really nice.
I mean, I like this, and again, you can paint this with this, right?
Yeah, because then you'd have the wood as the stain, you'd have a black frame, and then you would have this copper, which I really like, and I just think that one's a little much for this project.
And then if you finish the whole wood the same way, you will see behind this, so that will give a nice three-dimensionality to the piece. So the thing we have to decide now is which one of those things we're going to do, and potentially you could do all three of them on different pieces, right?
Yeah,
I mean, some people-
how much you want things to match.
Right, some people like the matching and some people really don't care about it that much. Do you care about matching?
I kind of want it to have a similar look to it, so.
Well, we'll have to take these off.
Yeah, I
because,
know, I just bent them down for the moment so that we could demonstrate what this might look like.
Right. And you could even leave it black on black. I mean,
You could.
especially depending on what that is, especially if you were to paint the inside this color. You know, there are a lot of things you can do. You can paint the outside white and blue, for example, and do this white with a
What
similar
if-
kind of color.
What if we put this, I'm gonna thinking out loud here. What if we make sure that we get this on center the way we want it to? We scribe this, we also put this on center where we want it, we scribe that, and do a combination of those things where we leave both of the frames black. We stain this outer part and then paint the inner part with the copper.
We can do that.
It's a little bit of work, but I'm thinking that the two black will really make the copper.
Now, yes, I mean, that's a good idea. The other thing we can do, of course, is we have to decide how we're going to attach these things. So this is just a visual element, and we don't need access after we attach it.
Right.
So we can glue it, or we can brad nail it. There are a lot of different ways we can do that, right? This presents the difficulty that we have to have a way to change the picture. So if we glue it, we cannot really do that, right, anymore.
But this has got a hanger, so I think if we just put like a small screw in there, then it's easy to take it on and off.
It is, but because of this, it will not be straight. It cannot hang straight.
This can be taken off.
I know, I'm just telling.
Yeah, so we can cut the little arm off because this is made to be a tabletop frame. We can cut that off and then just have a screw there or a little nail so that this can hang and be flat against it.
Yeah.
I like that. What do you think?
So what you want to do, you want to stain the outside and paint the inside this color? Okay.
And then leave the two frames black.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Yeah, that will work. We'll probably have to center this first and scribe this. Because if we have this over it, it will be harder to do, you know?
Yeah.
And then scribe all around it and then center this and attach it. And how we want to attach this? Did we decide, or we're going to decide later?
Probably glue. Glue is enough.
Yeah, there is enough surface area. Yeah, glue is enough. It's very light.
And we've got some super glue this time, so
Yeah.
we can do that.
And this,
Like I said, we're just
we're
gonna.
going to leave it free floating, feel floating.
Yeah, it'll just be like as though you were hanging it on the wall.
Of course, one little difficulty with that. We won't know exactly where to put the screw.
Yes, we will.
How?
Because you will have this here, and you can measure from the top down and side to side.
Okay.
And you can actually use a piece of like painter's tape if we have any to mark it, so that we can take that off and then put it on there and then mark it.
Okay, so we'll figure it out, right? All right, so we're going to figure out the best sequence to do this, right? We don't know that, and we have to remove these because these are visible.
Right.
And do it carefully so we don't break the frame. And we're going to start building, right?
Back in a minute.
So we start removing the little tabs that are intended to hold the paper backing of the picture off.
And the glass.
And how difficult is this process?
Not at all.
And now we have some interesting material left over. We have a piece of glass that we're not going to use in this project, but for example, we can use in different projects, right? And we are removing those because
they're without purpose in this project, and they stick out, and we don't want them to be part of the
right,
visual line.
they are visually unattractive.
Right.
And while I like to keep things, I don't think this can be used for anything.
Well, you have to have a special tool to install these points.
I actually do, but it's in Kansas.
Right.
We're not in Kansas anymore. Oh, and Sierra wants to be in the video, guys.
She does. She really wants to be here with us today.
You cannot see her though. There she is. Sierra, are you going to help us build? Sierra, are you going to help us? No.
I need a tape measure.
Sorry. Do you want the small ones or this, the thick one?
The small ones would be better because it'll scribe a finer line. Is that in your office?
Yeah.
I haven't done anything yet except.
So what we're doing now is we're trying to center it in the piece, right? It's not a dull square, it's a parallelogram actually.
There's Max. Hi, Max.
So I'm just trying to. I think it kind of wiggled when I was taking the glass and stuff out. So.
The case of the wiggling frame. Oh no! And in the background you can hear our dogs playing, which is very exciting.
It's a wrestling match. Who will win? Max the Destroyer versus Sierra the Quiet.
And I think actually, since we're making 3, depending on how many you make, it's more important that it is the same in all 3 than it is perfectly centered. Does that make sense? And why we decided to use that instead of the carpenter's pencil?
Because I wanted a really fine line.
Right, the carpenter's pencil is really designed for rough.
Rough marking.
Yeah, what do you call it? You know, when you for rough framing, it's not really designed for. And if you want, we can put one next to each other and extend those lines. So we make sure they're on the same. It's up to you. Just an idea, so we don't keep measuring, because measuring is never a good thing.
Slightly off.
Well, they're not going to be perfectly. Okay, you want to help me here for a moment? Not sure why we're not. Can you press that down until it touches the other one?
That's what I'm saying. Apparently this one's slightly
But it's
off.
not touching here either. What is happening?
Well, for one thing, we're on top of another door.
Yes, we are. Can you turn this over? I don't think this is a flush cut. You see? for some reason. Even though it looks like the factory cut.
Quite possible that was the factory cut.
Yeah, that's much better, you see.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But again, that is an easy way. If something doesn't look right to you, turning it over often is the right thing to do. Well, what do you think is right? So how much from the edge do you need to go? Do you remember or you don't care? The correct answer is he doesn't care. Alright, find that difference. When you do measure, which we try to avoid the best we can, make sure you use the same measuring device. So if you use a ruler like we do, use the ruler. If you're using a tape measure, use the same tape measure. And that is to keep any error that is in the measuring device consistent. You don't multiply the error. Yeah, put it on the top there, so you have a nice...
I'm lining up my 2 marks.
Okay, but you can triple check if you have that on the top. Triple double, triple double. Trick or treat, I don't know what I'm talking about.
That's Halloween.
Ah, it's not Halloween yet? Not October yet? October 2020, and the shelter-in-place order is still in effect. All right, we're going to do the last piece the same way, folks, and we'll be back with you. So we wanted to show you the difference between the mechanical pencil line and the carpenter's pencil line, and why in this instance we prefer the mechanical pencil. Actually, I tend to prefer it in all of them. And sometimes the carpenter's pencil, because it can generate a much thicker line too, depending on how you do it. And this is not really sharp right now, but you can see that can be a very sharp line. Can you draw another line there, please? And you can see here, if you're making something very precise, this introduces a curve that is much, much thicker, which means that over a period of length, if you're making something that's like 10 feet long, for example, that can produce a significant variation in your cut.
Right.
This is much less likely to do that. Does all make sense, or?
Okay.
We became X-rated.
Who did that?
This is not me.
Okay, we don't need to continue that, and we've done 2 of them.
I was just finishing up.
With all our markings for exterior frame finished, we're not moving to try and mark correctly our interior frame. And now the reason we do this in this sequence is because we plan to create a contrast, right? We plan to different color here than here. So this line becomes an important separator. So what do you think is easier, to transfer the line as we did before, or do that in all of them? The tracing in all of them. Only do 1 or 2. If you put too much out, it breaks easier. Okay? And we're going to do the rest of them the same way. We're going to repeat the same process for the other 2. And then we're going to talk about the next step. Okay, this is a tedious and lengthy process. And in general, again, I do not subscribe to measuring and things like that. But in this specific project, the more time you take to do this correctly and double check it, will pay dividends, because even small variations are going to be visible in the finished project, since you're going to put them next to each other.
All right, and because they're very geometric, you'll be able to notice small.
Now, if you don't put them next to each other, it will be a more forgiving project. But I think I plan to put them next to each other, is correct? So if you put them next to each other, it really pays dividends to take the time and just... This is taking much more time for us than anything else we've ever measured. What are you laughing at?
Our little visitor.
Oh, behind? But people cannot see it though.
She could see, we could see.
You could?
We could see her.
Our dog Sierra, who is 14 years old, really wants to be part of the video today, so I cannot see her though.
Not right now. She's hiding.
Well, she's behind me though.
Right. Sierra, you want to measure too? Sierra, say, you crazy human, stop talking to me. With our lines drawn and well defined, we're ready to move to the next step of the operation, and that will be, of course, a nice sanding of all the pieces. Again, this is considered to be a finished piece of furniture, and I would normally use a router bit and route the edges, but we don't have routers bits here. I thought I did have a router bit for my Dremel, but it turns out I don't. So unfortunately we'll have to either soften the edges using a sandpaper or just leave it modern looking with very sharp edges, right? But the sanding now is to just take care of the cut surfaces, right?
Right.
It's a rather strong sandpaper, I think.
It says medium.
We have used so long the same sandpaper that probably...
This is all medium grit.
Yeah. That should be fine, no? Well, use the other thing to see if you can erase those marks. This is another great find in the dollar store today, right?
Yeah, it came in a pack of 6.
Yeah, so that's another advantage of using the thin lines, is that they erase nicer, right? All right. Here comes sanding, here comes sanding. There we go. So a little tip we want to give you is how we plan to do this, and we're going to start with the stain, but keep in mind that those lines are exterior lines, so you can come through them and kind of overshoot them a little bit, and that will be fine, and then you can bring the paint, and you're a little more forgiving on the paint because you have a little more space, right?
Because remember, this much of the big frame is going to be here, so going inside the line is going to be okay with the stain, and then the small frame will be here, so even if I go inside that line with the copper, you won't see that.
Right, so that is the plan, and we are going to start addressing it. And this stain has helped us in a lot of projects, right?
Well, we've used it for a lot of...
We bought it for under $4. I think was it a Walmart sample or whatever it was?
Clearance, whatever it was.
Yeah, and if you don't care about the exact color, these are great, very economical ways to do it, right? Now if you have to match something, that's a different story. That wouldn't be. Again, we're using our normal technique, which is a wipe-on technique versus a paint technique. Would you be able to see the line with this? Okay. So you've seen this technique before. We're not going to bore you with this, but we'll be back when it is done. Actually, we're going to do all three first, right?
Right.
And when we do all three, we'll come back and we will start the painting process. Of course, because the edges of this will be visible, you will need to finish with whatever finish you use all the edges, all 4 edges, but you don't need to do anything in the back, right? So don't forget to do the edges and make an order of how you finish. So this is the first one we're using, so the next one and the next one, and then we're going to start working again on this, on the paint, since that will have given it time to dry. Also keep in mind that the cross cut of this piece will always absorb more stain and it will be darker. So if you want to do more hands, more covers,
Coats.
more coats there, thank you. Don't do them on the edges because they are already much darker. Only try to darken the other 2 sides, right? The cross-cutting area. Otherwise you will never make it the same if you do both. And here how it looks. Here how it looks. Here how it looks. So we finished with our 3, what we're going to flames or panels, paints.
Yeah, frame panels.
And we're going to I think they're probably already close to dry, but
Just about. I just wiped down any excess off the fronts and the sides where we stained them, and I'm just going to give them a few more minutes to finish drying.
right.
It's a really nice day outside, so it shouldn't take too long.
It is very nice outside, as you can see, here in our new home at North Carolina. Well, I don't want you confused. This is not our new home. It's our new home state.
It's new home state, transitional space.
Okay, our board is dry, and we're getting ready to use our little, I don't know how little it is, but our pewter. Copper, pewter, what's the difference?
Well, pewter looks like a dark gray. Copper
Looks like pewter.
is this kind of rosy.
In case you folks haven't figured it out, I love annoying Elpida. It's my favorite pastime. And she loves it too, even though she doesn't say it.
I
Right?
hope they figured it out by now.
Huh?
So I hope they figured it out by now.
That you love it?
Know that you love it.
But you love it too, admit it. What is that supposed to mean?
You know what?
I don't know. But anyway, so again, this doesn't need to be perfect. It's going to be covered by the frames, but you need to keep in mind where the lines are and what they represent, right? And when you're done, the goal is that it doesn't look like it is not perfect, right? And this is one way to deal with something you don't want where you want it. But we will finish and we'll be right back. The first one is finished and we're going to let it dry. And we're starting on the second one. And Elpida is being very creative of removing paint of areas that she doesn't want where they are.
Right.
Now the genesis of this concept came last project we made, and we kind of used an old piece of wood we had to clean the brush on, right?
Well, we were using it as a palette.
Right.
And then Mrs. went ahead and painted that across there, and we liked the way it looked.
Right, especially when it dried. We weren't as hot when we first did it, but it dried very nicely and brought the grain out very nicely, right? So we decided to implement it in a project, and I guess that's another tip. Don't be afraid to experiment, right?
Right.
What's the worst that can happen? It is not going to work out,
You
right?
don't like what you...
Right, it is not.
Right.
And unless you're making something from mahogany and you've spent thousands of dollars in the wood, usually your risk is not really that big.
Right.
And again, the really inside area is not important, it will be totally covered, right?
Right.
And now the area that is not critical, but you want to be a little more careful, is where the paint stops and the stain starts, right?
Yeah, so I'm being a little... I'm not even going up to the edges like I did on the other one, because I was going over a little further than I wanted.
And when you dry fit it, if you want to touch a couple of areas, you can, right? If you want, if you need to touch up something, so it is not the end of the world if you make a little mistake or something that shows a little bit. Probably this is a project that a little touch up will be required, don't you think?
Maybe.
I would say so. And will they get to see one of our pictures? We haven't told the channel we're photographers, so you know.
Yeah.
We plan to put some of our pictures in these frames, right? And we do plan to have them as dual orientation, so we're going to have a way to attach them both portrait style and landscape. And for now, because we don't have the other tools, we're going to use our self-made pocket or keyhole, whatever you want to call it. But probably later when we have our keyhole jig here, we're going to redo it, or if we had it, that would be our first preference. Right, we'll be back with you when we have finished both the painting and the staining, and now we're waiting. The paint takes a few more seconds to dry than the stain, but all three pieces are finished, so we're waiting a few minutes for this process to end, and we're going to move right along the next step. On this video we took care to make all the steps in sequence, so the filming has kept the same sequence as we did things. So if you follow this sequence, this is a good roadmap of how this project should work out. Anything else? She shook her head. I know you cannot see it, but she did. Trust me. So our next step is to take the foot or the... There you go.
Or that way.
That was a great way.
Good.
We didn't tell you much, but let's try it again. What are we trying to do?
Well, we were trying to bend this back so that this little, the foot will come off, but just break the metal hinge. But the whole thing came off real easy. So
And
maybe
we didn't make a big hole, so.
maybe we can just get this one off too.
Don't cut yourself.
There we go.
All right, so that's how you do it. It didn't go exactly as we planned because the first one we did a different way,
Yeah,
but
it actually broke,
that's a way to do it.
but they all came off, so now we're good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So this is our first dry fit, and you're getting the idea now, right? Of how it would look. And as we said before, during the dry fit, you can find any small imperfections that you need to address, right? And we found a couple of small areas here. Where are they?
So we're gonna touch up just around the edges here.
This actually looks great here.
Yeah, it doesn't look too bad.
I'm not sure if it is necessary, to be
Yeah.
honest.
I
That
think
looks
it'll be all right.
that looks great to me.
Well, there's a little bit of an edge here, but I think because you're gonna be looking straight at it, you're not gonna see that.
Right. But you
So
can see,
Can you take the camera over it so it's a shot down?
but I cannot go high enough.
Oh, she can.
I don't know what we're looking at. Okay, guys, this is a experimental high sat.
That's what I do all the time.
You experimentally high sat?
I do high shots like that all the time.
Okay, good. So we're going to do the other two, or we're going to complete this one. What is the plan now?
We're going to put this one together. We'll put the other two together. We're also going to dry fit those just like we have now to see if there's any spots I need to touch up with the copper paint.
Right.
And then we'll get a photo and put in there.
But now you get an idea of how it's supposed to look, and we are pleased with the way this looks. I mean, that looks the way we envision it, right?
It's not at all what my original idea was, but it has turned out much nicer even. So,
Right, even so.
right.
All right, guys, we'll be right with you. Two marks, one for a landscape orientation and one for a portrait orientation. So we will be able to change pictures in the future and not have to remark them at that point. So we're going to mount one, and we're going to show you the process. Mount it. No joke. Use the screwdriver first to make it dimple. So, and just hit it, or you know, something to not allow the screw to move. Pressure, 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 pressure.
Under pressure. Da-da-doo.
Under the sea. That's a whole different thing, isn't it?
Kim had the right song.
Okay, that's probably good. All right, friends, and this is our finished product. I don't think we have 3 more pictures to add today, but we're going to finish today the other 3 panels. 2 panels, yeah, sorry, we have a total of 3. And this is a picture that I took in the Caribbean while we're on a wonderful little boat called the Passat. And of course you can change the colors, as we've said before, to match your scheme, or you can play here a lot. Another thing you can do to make this project even easier, if you want a white background instead of a stain, you can buy a melanin board, which is already finished on pure white, and paint the interior if you want, or whatever you want, right? But that will simplify the project even more. All right, folks, and I hope you did enjoy this fun episode. We did have fun doing it and enjoying the nature during our staying in place order, and actually the end result is very nice, and it looks much more expensive than what we put into it. You know, each of those pieces cost us what we calculated,
About $8.
about $8 with everything included. And we bought a rather expensive board for this project. You could buy a cheaper board, you know, and of course you could make it even more rustic than we made it. This is a little more elegant, and I would have liked to finish it with some round over. That would make it absolutely perfect. But we do like it. It is what we envision, if not better. And I hope you did enjoy it as well. And please do smash that like button if you did. It really means a lot to us. Share, like, subscribe, and let us know what else you would like to see in our videos. How did that happen? I hope it's recording. From the Garage Woodworker, Miss Woodworker, Elpida, and the Urban Homesteading channel. Let's do that again. From the Garage Woodworker, Miss Woodworker, and the Urban Homesteading channel, we hope you're having a great week. Stay safe, and we're going to see you soon, friends.